When Marco Rubio declared that Chris Christie is President Obama's favorite Republican governor, among other criticisms, Christie told the Washington Post, "I just don't think Marco Rubio is going to be able to slime his way to the White House." That pretty much captures the tone of the GOP race, which took a strange turn when Donald Trump started talking about the well-known fact that Ted Cruz was born in Canada.
Senator Ted Cruz, you're now raised the issue of his birth. He was born in Alberta, Canada, to an American mother and a Cuban father. Why do you raise that now?
I didn't raise it. The Washington Post raised it. Because the worst thing that can happen is he gets sued by the Democrats and that he's not allowed to run.
The Texas senator says he's a naturalized U.S. citizen because he was born to an American mother. Most legal experts agree. And he tweaked Trump with a funny video of the Fonz jumping the shark. But reporters kept pressing him.
And one of the things that the media loves to do is gaze at their navels for hours on end. By a tweet from Donald Trump or from me or from anybody else, who cares? With all respect, our good friends here in the media are playing into the Democrats' playbook. How about we talk about the real challenges facing this country?
Joining us now to analyze the coverage of this no-holds-barred campaign, Mercedes Schlapp, a political commentator and strategist and veteran of the Bush White House. Betsy Woodruff, a correspondent for the Daily Beast. And Michael Tomasky, editor of the Democracy Journal and a special correspondent for the Daily Beast. All right, so Trump says that he's not pushing the Cruz Canadian birth issue. He's just responding to questions, first in the Washington Post. Is that right?
Well, I think it's a little twisted. I believe it's another sort of classic Trump act, which is, let me bring this up. Yes, I was asked by the Washington Post, but he has been able to carry on and feed this to the media. And then the media in response has decided that they're going to spend about 5 or 6 days talking about the fact of whether Ted Cruz, he was born in Canada, yes, and whether he's a natural-born citizen and qualified.
Why are the media doing that?
Partly it could be, we know 2 facts here. The conservative media, for example, they're all in agreement that this is ridiculous, that this is just a joke, that why are we even covering this? Mainstream media, they like Trump. I think they like the fact, let's bring up the doubt in the mind of these voters.
And Cruz is in the sort of strange position of first trying to brush this off and then producing a copy of his mother's Delaware birth certificate. Nobody had questioned whether she was an American, and giving it to the conservative site Breitbart.
Right, and I think actually this is where I would slightly take issue with your assessment of conservative media, because Breitbart and the Drudge Report, very conservative sites that tons of conservative Republican primary voters read, are really driving this narrative. Breitbart has taken it incredibly seriously.
The fact that he can run and
but they're covering it. Right, but
someone has to defend Ted Cruz, and that's going to be Breitbart.
No, but Breitbart's covering it like it's a serious news story, and like Trump is asking serious questions and they matter, while on the other hand, you know, our site, Washington Post, other outlets are looking like, oh my goodness, why are we even talking about this? Breitbart's taking the question seriously, Drudge Report's taking it seriously. So I think a lot of this, Breitbart has been both ways though. Like they had a long article yesterday, the day before, very in-depth, very much like look at the documents, show me the birth certificate.
And prove the fact that he is a natural-born citizen.
But they are driving.
Let me jump in here. Michael Tomasky, what does it say about Donald Trump's ability to dictate the media agenda that we have spent a week on this and it seems to have kind of bubbled up as the top story of the campaign this week?
It says what we've already known, what we've known since June, that he opens his mouth, he says something, he says it in a way that politicians, presidential candidates in particular, never do, right? He says it in a bombastic way, a somewhat demagogic way, a way that, you know, nobody else would do.
In this case, Trump says, no, I'm just trying to help Ted Cruz because the Democrats will make an issue of this, and I just want him to take care of this legal business.
Well, we know he's being coy about that, but you know, he does drive the agenda, and so it's every 4 days there's a 4-day Trump mania thing.
Let's move to all the harsh rhetoric. We played some of it at the top. So with Rubio and Christie and Jeb really now slamming each other as we get closer to Iowa and then New Hampshire, are the media rewarding them with lots of ink and lots of airtime?
Oh, absolutely. But it's because it's so fascinating to watch the mud fighting. They're all wrestling each other at this point, especially when you're starting to see the Rubio and the Christie fight, which is it's been more recent that we're starting to see this. And I think that's been the most fascinating part to watch right now.
Every campaign heats up as you get closer to the voting. But is the media guilty of sort of elevating insults over issues.
I think perhaps what the media is guilty of is focusing on Trump to nearly the total exclusion of any other candidate, unless they use terms like slimy to describe each other. The bar for what makes something newsworthy seems pretty out of whack.
So
and as a result, the way that Rubio gets coverage,
the other candidates have to engage in more outrageous rhetoric in order to break through the sort of Trump force field?
Without a doubt. Yeah, because the bar for what makes something outrageous is so high. Yeah. It's amazing.
And, you know, it does seem to me, because we all know the media thrive on conflict, I mean, that's a given, that journalists are disappointed when Ted Cruz deflects these questions, refuses to attack Donald Trump. He's not looking to alienate his supporters. And they keep asking him again, yes, but aren't you outraged by this? And Cruz has been pretty disciplined in not playing that game.
Cruz has been disciplined. He has his strategy. And it's been, yes, every campaign gets heated, and the media always over-focus on these attacks. We're always guilty of that. But this is a little different because of Trump's presence, because he has ratcheted up the insult level, as Betsy said, and because he's made it a really confusing situation for these candidates. I think they usually, if you're in a multi-candidate field, you know whom to attack to shed their support and move it in your direction. But now that's totally confused.
Well, and the media has a big challenge. They're having to cover multiple candidates. So it's not only that, but they're, you know, in the newsrooms, they're asking themselves, who do we cover? Donald Trump versus Marco versus Christie versus Cruz. And there's only a limited window to give that time available.